We're going to take a closer look tonight at the crisis in Gaza. It's been just over a week now since the bloody and violent takeover by Hamas, considered a terrorist group by the U.S. and much of the West. This weekend, Arab leaders are traveling to a summit in Egypt to decide how to help the people of Gaza without helping Hamas. It is a dangerous place to visit, with threats against Western journalists. But this week we passed through the gates to Gaza to meet the families who dare say they want out. At the northern end of the Gaza Strip, this is the only way in or out. A path of barbed wire fencing that stretches as far as one can see. As we snaked through this week, it was not long before we found the steel gates holding back hundreds of Palestinian refugees who were hoping to get past them. They had already been waiting for 6 days. We are sleeping on the ground here, this mother told me. There is no cover. Her name is Katam, and she was hoping to get through to make the 30-mile trek to get her children to the Palestinian West Bank, fearful of Hamas and of the worsening conditions inside Gaza. She and her children spent days sitting on the concrete. Even so, one of her twin boys told me he didn't want to go home. This man held onto a poster of the late Yasser Arafat, who founded the Fatah Party, chased from Gaza. I would not feel safe now holding this in Gaza City, he told me. They watched as only the very ill were allowed to pass through the checkpoint into Israel. This is all that's left of the Palestinian end of the Erez crossing. The metal that used to hang overhead here has now been completely looted, taken back to the streets of Gaza to be sold. And the border guards who used to stand here to check for ID are here no longer. It is completely lawless. Now Hamas militants try to fill that void, policing the streets. As we drove into Gaza City, away from one of the militants now directing traffic. Human rights groups warn food supplies here are dwindling. Gaza's 1.5 million people depend almost entirely on food from the outside world.
You have about 2 weeks food reserves in Gaza now.
Even so, this Hamas militant told me with great confidence, Gaza is now a better place. People chose Hamas, he said, and this authority will work. Not far from here, Hamas guards led us into the home of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who remains in the West Bank. There were photos with American presidents. His television was still on, though no one knows when they'll be back. Most of the refugees we met hoping to get out have given up going back into Gaza. And we've learned that Katam, that mother and her children, did board an Israeli bus, not bound for the West Bank, but for Egypt. Israel is concerned taking refugees to the West Bank could result in thousands of other refugees wanting the same.